you are interested in trying to change shock springs yourself and have some mechanical aptitude, I wanted to point out that there is some tools out there.
Nobody's coming the other way.
Hey, how's it going? Welcome to my channel. If you're new here, do that thing down below. If you are interested in trying to change shock springs yourself and have some mechanical aptitude, I wanted to point out that there is some tools out there to help you do that. These are spring compressors from Tusk that I picked up. Now I am getting ready to use these to do some spring swaps. So this is partly how to use it and also what my thoughts are on the spring compressors. I read quite a few reviews. It seems like guys were very happy with using these. They're able to swap out springs and shocks off of ATVs and also motorcycles. So that's what I'm going to use these for, is on the motorcycle. These are meant for motorcycles, ATVs, that type of shock with those types of spring rates. So if you are interested in trying to swap out your own springs, you don't want to pay someone to do it, and you're willing to spend, I think I spent $40 with shipping and handling to do it yourself, then stick around and we will go through the process of using these on changing the springs between this shock to this shock. Before I get started, it comes in this nice little case. It has these little plastic, I don't know what you want to call them, a cover basically on the metal part of the slide to protect the spring to not chip off any of the powder coating. And then there are some replacements that come in the box as well. Now the end of this, I'll get a better look at it. It has a 3/8 inch drive in it, or you can also put a wrench and use a wrench to tighten this up. So let's go ahead and get started on it. It's recommended that you put your shock in a vise, but I am in a transitional period right now and I do not have a vise available to me. So I'm going to do it on the workbench. Now I'm just cranking this down until it makes contact. 180 degrees on the other side. I will put the other one. That's about 180 out. I'm going to start by tightening that one a little, and then tighten this one a little. And then tighten this one. So basically just work back and forth to get the spring to compress. It's loosening up now. Spring compressor, just quickly on going through this because I don't have a vise to put it in. I still think you're going to run into some issues that once it gets loose enough in here, if you're in a vise and you're trying to crank on it, you're likely going to have to hold it with one hand. So what I ended up doing was putting the 2x4 on one side of the compressor and having a solid surface so that it wasn't rolling around on it. That seemed to work. I had seen some pictures of this here twisting, and it did twist a little. But I noticed it was twisting more when this little dog ear was starting to come off. So you really have to pay attention to these ears as they're clamping down, that they stay centered over the spring and don't start twisting. Because if it starts twisting and pops off, and you're going to have this explosive reaction from all that pressure compressing the spring. It did its job. It is a lot of work. It was a lot more, it took a lot more force to compress the spring than I was expecting using these. It'd be nice to have a hydraulic press, but for $40 I was able to get the spring off. I just finished using these Tusk Spring Compressors. It was a little surprising how much force it took. It was more than I was expecting. I thought I'd be able to just spin them on and off. And of course that has to do with the spring rate of the spring you're taking off. The first spring that I took off of the shock had 150 Newton per millimeter spring rate, And the second shock that I took off had 120 Newton per millimeter spring rate. So obviously the second one was much easier, but these worked. I think they did the job for $40. Be able to use these on other springs, but again, it was a little bit more force than I was expecting. And the other thing is, even if you have it in a vise, once that spring gets loose enough and you're trying to tighten it, it's going to start spinning around. So at some point you're going to have to figure out a way to hold it. I think I prefer doing it on the workbench where I could put these, brace it on a 2x4 and then push down so that I'm actually putting the pressure on this, not the spring, and putting that on the 2x4 so it won't damage it, and then using that as the leverage point and not trying to hold the spring. Now I used my hand just to keep the spring in place and to keep this positioned on there. Overall, I think it was worth the $40 with shipping and handling to be able to do this myself, and because of the urgency I had to do it. I probably could have taken it into a shop, but they would have charged me probably an hour's worth of labor, which would have been more than the cost of these, and I like doing things myself, so that's what I did, and I like having additional motorcycle tools. So anyway, thanks for watching. Hopefully if this is something you're interested in doing, you found this useful. I haven't seen a lot of reviews on these, so I thought it'd be worthwhile doing for the adventure bikes and the adventure market and changing shocks and springs, and that's something that with these suspensions and the abuse they take with a heavier bike, you're likely going to have to do that. So get out, do some riding, ride safe, and I'll see you out there.
I'm gonna regret taking my helmet off. All this stuff off.